You think you're doing 3 things at once. 0 things well. Elena has her laptop open with a work document on the screen. Her phone is next to her with a text conversation going. The TV is on in the background. She's switching between all 3, feeling busy, feeling productive even. Responding to a message while half listening to the show while trying to finish a paragraph. But when she finally closes the laptop an hour later, she realizes she's written maybe 2 sentences. The text's surface-level responses she barely remembers sending. And she has no idea what happened in the show. She spent an hour doing everything and had accomplished nothing, and she's exhausted. Here's what actually happens when you multitask. You're not doing multiple things simultaneously. Your brain can't do that. What you're actually doing is rapidly switching between tasks. And every single switch has a cost. Like a spotlight, it can illuminate one thing at a time. When you're focused on writing, the spotlight is on writing. When a text comes in and you check it, the spotlight has to move. It swings away from writing, lands on the text, processes what it says, formulates a response, sends it. Then it has to swing back to writing. But it doesn't just instantly pick up where it left off. There's a transition period. Your brain has to reorient, remind itself what you were doing, where you were in the thought, what you were about to say next. And that reorientation takes time, sometimes just a few seconds, sometimes longer. But it adds up, and if you're switching constantly, you're spending more time transitioning than actually working. This is why multitasking feels productive but isn't. You're busy. You're moving, you're responding to things, but you're not going deep into anything. You're skimming the surface of everything. And surface-level work doesn't produce meaningful results. It just produces activity. Motion without progress. Your brain also performs worse when it's switching. Studies show this over and over. When people think they're multitasking, make more mistakes, they miss important details. They retain less information. They take longer to complete tasks than if they had just done them one at a time. The efficiency you think you're gaining by doing everything at once, it's an illusion. You're actually really being less efficient, significantly less. But it doesn't feel that way. It feels like you're getting more done, because you're checking things off. You responded to that message. You watched some of that show. You wrote some of that document. You touched all these different things. But touching isn't completing. And completion is what actually matters. There's also this thing where multitasking creates the feeling of urgency. Everything feels important when you're juggling it. Your brain is in this heightened state, alert, reactive, constantly monitoring multiple streams. And that state tricks you into thinking you're doing important work, that all of this matters equally, that you need to be handling all of it right now. But most of it doesn't actually need your immediate attention. The text can wait. The show, the only thing that really needs focus is the one task you're supposed to be doing. But when you're in multitasking mode, your brain loses the ability to prioritize. Everything feels equally urgent. So you treat everything equally, which means nothing gets your best effort. And here's where it gets worse. Multitasking is addictive. Your brain gets hooked on the stimulation, on the variety, on the constant novelty of switching between things. It's like slot machines. Each switch gives you a little hit of dopamine, a little reward, and your brain starts to crave that. It gets uncomfortable with single tasking, with staying on one thing, because one thing feels boring in comparison. So even when you try to focus, your brain is pulling you away, telling you to check something else, do something else, switch to something more interesting. And if you give in, you're reinforcing the pattern, teaching your brain that switching is what we do. That focus isn't necessary, that we can just bounce around and it'll be fine. But it's not fine. You're training yourself to have a scattered attention span, to be easily distracted, to be unable to sustain effort on anything challenging. And the more you do it, the harder it becomes to do deep work. The kind of work that actually moves things forward. The kind that requires sustained attention and genuine thought. Multitasking also wears you out faster, because your brain is working harder than it needs to. Every switch requires energy. Every transition burns through your mental resources. So you end up exhausted at the end of the day, even though you didn't accomplish much. Because you weren't resting, you weren't focusing, you were just frantically switching all day long, and you probably don't even realize you're doing it. It's become so automatic, so normalized. You sit down to work and your hand is already reaching for your phone. You start one task and your mind is already thinking about the next. You're in a meeting and you're checking email. You're on a call and you're scrolling. It's just how you operate now. But there's a difference between multitasking and task switching that's worth understanding. Sometimes you do need to handle multiple things. That's life. But there's a way to do it that doesn't destroy your focus. And that's by doing things sequentially, not simultaneously. You work on one thing for a set period, then you switch to the next thing. Give it your full attention. Then you move to the next. You're still handling multiple things, but you're not fragmenting your attention. You're giving each thing its moment, its space. And when you work that way, each task gets done better, faster, with less mental exhaustion. But most people don't work that way. They leave everything open, all the tabs, all the apps, all the possibilities, and their brain is constantly aware of all of it, constantly tempted to switch, constantly pulled in multiple directions, and they wonder why they can't think clearly, why they feel foggy, why simple tasks feel overwhelming. It's because they're not just doing the task. They're also managing the temptation to do all the other tasks. And that management takes up mental space. Even when you're not actively switching, the awareness that you could switch is sitting there in the background, using energy, creating noise. There's also this cultural thing where multitasking is seen as a skill. People brag about it, put it on their resumes, act like being able to juggle multiple things is a strength. But it's not. It's a coping mechanism that demands too much. And it's a terrible way to work, because you end up doing a mediocre job at everything instead of an excellent job at anything. And the people who seem like they're successfully multitasking, they're usually not. They're either very good, quickly switching and refocusing, or they're just better at hiding how scattered they actually are. But if you look closely, if you measure the quality of their work, maybe not dramatically, it's not as good as it would be if they focused. This matters more than people realize, because the work you do when you're focused is fundamentally different from the work you do when you're scattered. Focused work is where breakthroughs happen, where creativity emerges, where you solve problems that seemed impossible, where you produce things that actually matter. Scattered work is just maintenance, keeping up, responding, managing. And there's a place for that. But if that's all you're doing, if you're never going deep, you're never going to do anything meaningful. You're just going to stay busy forever. And busy isn't the same as effective. Busy is just noise, movement without direction, effort without result. And you can spend your entire life being busy and have nothing to show for it, because you were always switching, always distracted, never fully present for any of it. So what do you do? How do you break this pattern when the entire world is designed to make you multitask? You protect your attention like it's sacred. You close the tabs. You put the phone away. You do one thing, fully, completely, and you let everything else wait, not forever. Just for now. Just while you're doing this one thing that actually matters. and you accept that it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. Your brain is going to protest. It's going to tell you you're missing something, that you should be checking, that you need to switch, and you let those feelings exist without acting on them. You prove to your brain that nothing terrible happens when you focus, that the world doesn't fall apart, that you're actually more capable, not less, when you're fully present. Because that's the truth multitasking hides from you. You're not better when you're scattered, you're weaker, you're slower, you're less creative, you're producing less valuable work, and you're exhausting yourself in the process. Focus isn't about doing less. It's about doing what matters all the way through, not halfway, not with one eye on something else, but completely. And when you work that way, you're not just more productive, you're more present, more alive, more yourself. Multitasking isn't a superpower, it's a distraction disguised as efficiency. And the sooner you stop believing in it, the sooner you can do work that actually reflects what you're capable of. Not scattered, fracked pieces of effort, but whole, complete, focused attention. The kind that changes things. The kind that makes something real.